Monday, December 3rd, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about 9/11 and the fact that some very important news have come out, and I'd like to thank World Alternative Media, WAM. They are a very good YouTube channel, and they've reported on this. And I've noticed that very few other alternative outlets have talked about this. Not even InfoWars is touching upon it. Not even Change.org has touched upon it. So what's going on? Well, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Manhattan, his name is Geoffrey Berman, and he was appointed by President Trump on April 25th, 2018. He has decided to accept to look into 9/11, and there was a petition made in April of this year by Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry. And Judge Berman has decided to allow a grand jury to look into all the testimony that the Lawyers Committee has brought forth. I mean, and there's so much of 9/11 that a lot of us who have looked into it, and to the fact that it was an inside job, and I've got this sticker I bought from InfoWars over 10 years ago. I've got this. And so why am I touching upon this? Well, because I think it's the most important topic. It's what changed the world for the worse since that day in 2001. It's like before 9/11, after 9/11. And I think the explanation we got from the 9/11 committee, in which they only spent $14 million, doesn't add up at all. Who did 9/11? Well, that's for investigation to decide. But I don't think what we are told is, the truth. And some people might say, well, you need to respect the victims and their families. You can't do this. I think it's disrespectful not to want to know the truth. That's what I would say. And I will touch upon a lot of the things that don't pass the smell test, but I will focus on a market event during 9/11, which shows how, suspect this event is, that it was probably an inside job. Before that, of course, I will look quickly at the markets and see what they're doing overnight. And as for 9/11 as well, I'm going to talk about some characters, head of the FBI, head of the CIA, the former, attorneys for this Southern District of New York, United States Attorney, that could have started this grand jury, who they were, and you'd be very surprised at who they were, or maybe not. And has anything changed? No, but it's taken 17 years for a judge to actually say, yes, we will look at it. Prior to that, they didn't want to know, even if you had proof. So this is the big thing, I think. How long would it take? Well, we'll have to see. But before that, of course, let's look at what the markets are doing this morning. It's 7:41 London time, 7:41 a.m. And yes, the markets have taken this, how can I say, it was like a truce between US and China on the trade dispute, a 3-month truce, and the market likes it. I don't know how much of it is the market really, or if there's more to it, like the PPT, so to speak. But, be as it may, right now the Dow is up 550 points, or 2.17% at 26,057. That's right near the highs. Of course, the all-time high is around 26,800, so we're still far away from that. S&P up 2% as well at 2810. The NASDAQ 100 is up 2.5%. And as I've said before, the NASDAQ, yeah, we're not even back towards an important trend line in the NASDAQ 100. And the all-time high was almost at 7,700. So we're still way below the all-time highs, especially for the NASDAQ. What about gold and silver? Well, I was looking at the market yesterday, last night when it opened at 11 p.m. London, and the Dow was up 500 right off the bat, and gold and silver were doing nothing. They were up a few, silver was up a cent, gold was up half a cent as well, or maybe or half a dollar to a dollar. But this morning, actually, they've finally come up, and gold is now above 1230. Is at 1231.50, up $10 or 0.75%. Spot silver is up 20 at 1440, up 1.3%. So silver is still not going anywhere, but at least the metals have finally moved up. The dollar, of course, has dropped. The pound is up 0.5%, 128.15. So that 127 level is held for now. Euros at 113.76, up 0.5% as well. Dollar yen is unchanged actually, and against the yuan, the dollar is down 1% at 6.88. And crude oil is up like 5%. WTI is at 53.50. Brent is at 62.15. So this definitely has, and why is oil up? Well, because this kind of helps China, I would say, and China is a big consumer of commodities, right? So what about the other commodities? Just to have a quick look. Well, copper is up 2%, high-grade copper. What about the soft commodities? We've got, someone was talking about wheat, but wheat is actually down 0.75%. I'm not sure if this is open here, though. We might need to, no, it's open. Cotton is up 0.8. So yeah, commodities are generally stronger after this because China is a main driver for the commodities. And I think the market seems to think this will help China. The 10-year yield is up about 5 basis points. Is at 304, the US 10-year yield. So 9/11. Yeah, I think anyone who is an adult or a young adult remembers the day, what they were doing on 9/11. That's the kind of event that was. I was in my office in the city of London. It was just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And all of a sudden, I hear one of my clients that I had in New York come through a direct line, and we had them on speakers, and he was not the kind of guy who would come and shout over the line. He was very polite. He used to call, and I'd pick him up, and we talked, and he'd give me an order. But this time he just barked a huge order through the speaker box, and I thought, wow, what's going on? And that was it, the first plane had hit, and all hell broke loose. So that's where I was. What about in terms of false flags? And I think it was a false flag, and most probably, very probably, an inside job from the deep state or shadow government. And why do I think that? Well, because about 10 years earlier, the Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War ended, there was no more Soviet threat, and I think that was engineered as well. You just have to look at General Patton. I think he wanted to go all the way to Berlin. They said no, let the Soviets come into Berlin, and he couldn't understand that. Well, I think because they engineered that as well, the Cold War. And if you don't believe that, just read, Google Anthony Sutton, all his books. He talks about how they engineered these crises and how they financed both sides, you know, Wall Street and the bankers. So they had to find a new raison d'etre, you know, for big government, a new enemy. So, and you can even read the PNAC, Project for a New American Century. A year or so before, the neocons said that they needed an event like Pearl Harbor so that they could, you know, could change policy and exert America's influence in the Middle East and in the world. And that's what 9/11 did. And not only did it do that, give America kind of a green card or a ticket to go everywhere around the world and invading and fighting wars, it also took away Americans' freedom, you know, they had, you know, their Bill of Rights. You just have to look at you know, the Homeland Security Act was ready, you know, to be passed right away. It didn't take that long. So it's almost like they had it prepared after 9/11. So it doesn't pass the smelt test. And what's the result of it? It's not only for Americans losing freedom, but it's in the UK here as well. You know, all the cameras, you go to that's one of the reasons I don't like traveling that much on airplanes. You know, going through security at airports. I think it's humiliating and it's ridiculous. And the other thing that I think they've done, they've taken that as an excuse to make you shop in airports because you need to get there really early, so you need to find something to do. I've found it amazing now at Gatwick that you go in through security, and once you're out of security, you'd think you'd be in the terminal, but no, it's a huge duty-free shop, like a maze. You can almost not get out of it, so they want to get you for your... You know, they want to take your freedoms, but they want you to keep spending. Well, George W. Bush said, didn't he, right after 9/11, don't go out and shop. So you can see what kind of people these people are. So what are the important videos for you to watch here? Well, in terms of 9/11, my favorite was always Loose Change by Jason Bermas, and he is now on wearechange.org with Luke Rodowski. And I'm surprised he hasn't caught on to this, but maybe he will. But the latest video I recommend, and I'll put it up in the cards, is by WAM, Josh Sigurdson, and it's entitled Massive Breakthrough in 9/11 Investigation, Must Watch. So I'll put that up. And then the website to look at is Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry.org, and I'll put the link below in the description. So they made a petition in April this year, and finally U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman will comply with 18 U.S.C. Section 3332. So that means that he's going to call on a grand jury to look into this. Oh, you know, and the lawyers, then the architects and engineers for 9/11, they've sent a lot of, you know, witness statements. They sent videos, you know, all about the buildings falling down, like in a controlled demolition, Building 7. We all know about the BBC reporter. Well, some of you might know, she was reporting that Building 7 had collapsed, and it was right behind her. So how could she know it was going to collapse? Well, maybe because she knew the script, right? But so here's the important letter. It says, by mail, Mick G. Harrison, Esquire, Executive Director, the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry, Inc. Dear Mr. Harrison, we have received and reviewed the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry, Inc. submissions of April 10th and July 30th, 2018. We will comply with provisions of 18 U.S.C. Section 3332, as they relate to your submissions. Very truly yours, Jeffrey S. Berman, United States Attorney. And it was signed by his one of his staff, Michael Furman. So they're going to look into it. What is a grand jury? Well, a grand jury is a legal body which has the power to conduct official proceedings to investigate possible criminal conduct. So, and it says grand juries are made up from 16 to 23 people. They're just normal people like us. It was something that was enacted in England, but apparently they don't have grand juries. The only place they have grand juries nowadays is the United States and Liberia. So that's quite interesting. So what about the people who... one thing that I found interesting, and I just looked at this morning, and I've been looking at this yesterday as well. Jeffrey Berman, right? He's decided to give people a chance to look into this. So he was actually nominated by President Trump on January 5th, 2018. He was acting United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. And he was only, I guess he was only approved on April 25th. So he's been officially the attorney for the Southern District. But you look back here, since, 2002, or, we had Mary Jo White. She was the attorney from 1993 to January 7th, 2002. And guess who was the attorney for the Southern District after her? James Comey. January 7th, 2002 to December 15th, 2003. Sounds familiar? All right. So also during 9/11, who was director of the FBI? Robert Mueller. September 4th, 2001. September 4th, 2013. So he was the head of the FBI. Is strange, isn't it? Convenient. So all the stuff that they're bringing up, the lawyers for 9/11, committee, it's nothing new for us who have been looking at this for many years. So what about, I said I want to talk about something related to the markets and 9/11. Well, it's some of you might know, there were people who made a lot of money by buying puts on I think United Airlines, maybe Delta as well. I'm not sure. I think it was United Airlines. They bought puts on the stock of United Airlines, and they made a lot of money. And they bought these puts just before 9/11, and when it happened, the share price of the airlines collapsed, and they did it through a broker called Alex Brown and Sons. And who are Alex Brown and Sons? Well, they used to be owned by Bankers Trust. And who took over Bankers Trust in 1999? Deutsche Bank, right? And who was chairman, of Alex Brown from 1998 to 2001? Well, it was a guy called Buzzy Krongard. And you look at the Alex Brown Wikipedia page, it says Alex Brown's chairman in 1998 was A.B. or Buzzy Krongard, who was appointed executive director of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, in 2001. Just food for thought there. I know Jim Rickards talks about 9/11, and that he's consulted the CIA on how to detect possible terrorist events, and he talks about these options that were traded, but he never says that it was done at Deutsche Bank or Alex Brown. He never says that the easiest way to find who these guys were is to see who traded these, and it's never come out which account at Alex Brown actually put these trades on, and it would be really easy to find out. So I could go on and on and on more about 9/11, but I just wanted to make this video to let people know that it could be changing, and it could be all because of who President Trump nominated for attorney for the District of Southern New York, Southern District of New York, United States Attorney. And of course, I'm not holding my breath. It's been 17 years that we've been living in a world where basically is a huge crime was committed on 9/11/2001, and the perpetrators have not been found guilty yet. That 9/11 report, even the people who were involved in the writing up that report, they said it doesn't pass their smell test. And it's ironic that probably one of the masterminds of this event has just passed away, right? So maybe that will be the trigger for the truth coming out. And it's ironic as well that the CIA, in their headquarters on the floor, they have the seal of the CIA, and they've got the, if you know the truth will set you free. That's really deceptive, isn't it? Because the CIA is the last institution that will tell the truth. But anyway, I don't care, if they censor this video or demonetize it. It has to be done. If you enjoyed it, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I wish you all a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.